Welcome back, it's me, Lou. Alright, so for today's video, it's going to be a short toy haul video. I'm just going to spotlight some of my recent acquisitions. So one of the toy lines I actually collect are the Mortal Kombat line of action figures by McFarlane Toys. I've been collecting the figures since day one. But for whatever reason, I've never really talked about them much on my YouTube channel. I think it's mostly because I don't open them up. I just keep them mint on card. I love how they look in the package, and I have a wall, that's just kind of dedicated to like my Mortal Kombat figures. But maybe in the future I could showcase those a little bit more. But for today's video, we're just going to talk about some of the figures I purchased recently. So I know some of these figures have been out for a while, so chances are you could probably go on YouTube and find a full review on these action figures. But for me, like I said, we're just going to look at the figures as is, mint in box. So one of the figures that I purchased recently, I got this guy Malefic Spawn at one of my local Walmarts. Now, for whatever reason, the Walmart stores close to me, they don't always carry the Mortal Kombat figures, and I don't know why that is. Some of my local Targets used to, and for me, they're just kind of hard to come across. Every now and then I might spot one at my local GameStop, but for the most part, if there's a Mortal Kombat figure I want, usually I'll just get it through Amazon. But in this case, I was at Walmart last week and I came across Malefic Spawn and another variation of, this normal Spawn. Malefic Spawn looks fantastic. If you're familiar with this line of toys, this is actually the repaint. Here was the first release of Malefic Spawn. It's in the much more traditional Spawn colors with the black and the red. And this figure looks fantastic. I actually have one loose on hand right here. I might have talked about this figure a few months ago. I got this guy used, and man, I love this figure. It's awesome. I love his armor. It's Spawn, but it's a very unique take on Spawn. I haven't played Mortal Kombat 11 enough to know if this guy is like DLC or, if he's actually a character in the game. But, yeah, this guy does not disappoint. I think it's one of my favorite Spawn figures. There's something about him, it kind of reminds me of like a cross between medieval Spawn and like the live action movie Spawn. Especially since his costume looks very organic. It looks like the texturing on the musculature. It looks almost like it's gonna come to life. It looks awesome. I love all the like detailing and micro texture on the belts and the harnesses. I love the asymmetry of his boots and even of his gauntlets. It's a great figure. And for me, this figure, it's like so amazing. I love this figure so much. And when I saw that there was a repaint, originally I pre-ordered this on Amazon, but then for whatever reason, Amazon canceled my pre-order way back when. And this guy eventually did come into stock, but, at a certain point, I just kind of didn't care. I didn't care until I actually saw them in the store. Once I saw them in the store, I was all over it. I love the different color scheme, with the gold and the white. It kind of reminds me of Lord Raiden. I love the blood splatter. It's Mortal Kombat. It's going to be violent, and it's not overdone. It's kind of subtle where it needs to be. There's some blood splatter on his mask and on his arm. On his body, but on his arm, on his forearm right there's a lot of blood. So it almost looks like he punched like straight through his opponent, or maybe tore his opponent's heart out. Much like they do in Mortal Kombat. And then he even comes with the plasma effects right there. In the trademark Spawn green. So yeah, Malefic Spawn, this is awesome. I love this figure so much. It's well articulated, as all McFarlane figures are. If you're pretty much like new to like McFarlane toys from the last few years, the quality of their action figures is amazing. This guy is easily on the same level as some of the DC Multiverse stuff, if not more so. They afford you the ability of like to do crazy poses, and the detailing's there. It's amazing. So yeah, Malefic Spawn, highly recommended. Great figure. The repaint looks fantastic. Again, side-by-side comparison. And up next we have another version of Spawn. So this take on Spawn we've seen multiple times since McFarlane started the Mortal Kombat line, and it's cool. The colors are a little bit more subdued. You know, this is a little bit more on like brownish orange versus like the bright Spawn red color. And if you've been collecting the line for a long time, you'll remember that, you know, some of these earlier versions of Spawn, they're kind of hard to come by, and you know, I'm not sure how it is now, but I remember trying to hunt some of those figures down, and they commanded like really, really high prices. And McFarlane Toys, you know, they're known for double dipping. You know, they'll re-release a figure multiple times. You know, they might change out an accessory or give you a different paint job. You know, in this case, you know, this is Spawn with the battle axe and the subdued paint job. But, you know, much like Malefic Spawn that we just looked at, he also kind of has like some blood splatter on him. You know, it's very evident on his torso, and a lot of blood on his axe. So yeah, great figure. You know, I love this, like, the classic look of Spawn. You know, this is a little bit upgraded from like Spawn's earlier days, like in the comic books when his costume was more spandex than organic. But nonetheless, fantastic figure. And next we come to Kotal Khan. It's decent. You know, his armor is kind of like very, I mean, how would I describe it? It's almost kind of like Mayan or Aztec-like. You know, he has the giant headdress of feathers. He kind of has like the tile-plated armor above his chest. You know, he has the imprint on the skirt. Very broad sword. Kotal Khan's a character, like, for me, I'm very, very married to, like, the characters from Mortal Kombat from, like, the first 3 games. And for me, anything that came afterward, it's not that I reject it. It's just, you know, I'm much more in tune with, like, their original canon than the games that came later on. I mean, it's all canon, but for me, I was in high school when the original Mortal Kombat game came out, and the 3rd game came out when I was in college. And for me, I was always at the arcade, so I was just so addicted to, like, playing Mortal Kombat. For me, you know, growing up, the Mortal Kombat experience was really about being in the arcade. And Kotal Khan, he comes from an era where, you know, it's more about the console games. And not that there's anything wrong with them. You know, the games are just as amazing as, you know, they've always been. But I just don't have, like, a sentimental attachment to this character, you know. That might change, you know, if I start diving in and playing these games again, but you know, regardless of that, it's a fantastic looking figure. The detail is amazing. Yeah, really, really stoked on these. I'm like so stoked on Mortal Kombat figures right now that I really wish McFarlane Toys would do the much more iconic versions of the characters from like the earlier games. But I think their license only allows for them to do characters from like Mortal Kombat 11. Storm Collectibles, you know, they also have the license to Mortal Kombat. And their figures are slightly larger than these, and they're a lot more pricier too. And that's a figure line I've been avoiding, but they have certain characters that McFarlane hasn't tapped into yet. Like, I'm a big fan of like Kung Lao, and Storm Collectibles has a Kung Lao figure, and I'm itching to get it. And I'm afraid if I do, I might dive in and buy more of the Storm Collectible line. And that's something that my wallet isn't prepared for, especially since those figures go for, like, you know, I was looking up Kung Lao on, like, Amazon the other day. I think he, like, popped up for, like, I think, like, $70 or $80. And for me, that's a little too rich for my blood. You know, I like to keep my action figures well under, like, you know, if possible, under $25. So, okay, so let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So hopefully in the near future, I'll probably, you know, spotlight McFarlane Toys and their Mortal Kombat line a little bit more. But in the meantime, come back. I always offer a lot of unique and interesting content. And I'll see you at the next video. All right, take care.